Hey, what's up, everybody? Awesome episode today. Digging in with Matt Benzion. Listen, he's a lawyer, but there's something really special about him. He's got a phenomenal story. He's a child of a divorced home, but he's got a really happy ending. The story he tells is unbelievable, and I really would encourage you to stick to the end. Not only does he give great advice, but at the end, he actually breaks out and does a rap. He's a poet, he's a rapper, and yes, he's a super lawyer. So stick to the end, enjoy it. Thanks for watching. All right, welcome back, everybody. This is Digging In. If you're new to the show, I'm Matt Rosenthal, and we do this every week. I bring on people like our guest today, Matt, that are really special. They're successful in business, they're successful in life, they're successful, it could be health. It's just that they found their way in so many different ways, and they bring value to this conversation. So today's guest has a really unique experience, and I think that as you listen to what he's about to tell you, I hope it motivates you. I hope it inspires you. And really, if we can help you reach your potential, we've done our job today. And that's what the show is about. And I know that's what Matt's going to bring to the table. So without any further delay, let me introduce Matt Benzion. Let me tell you a little bit about yourself before we jump into it. Okay.
Okay.
If anything I say is not true, feel free to correct me. You're going to love it. You're a poet. I know you're a poet. I know you're a rapper. I'm looking to hear some really cool rap today, and I don't believe you make money from those things, but you're a lawyer by trade, and I know you're a really good lawyer. You got a great reputation. Your life's work, and we're gonna connect the dots on this. You're an attorney that focuses on a lot of different things, but specifically one of them is divorce and children and the impact of children and reducing conflict between children and parents, and it's a difficult thing. It's a space that's uncomfortable for people to talk about, but let's dive into it, man. How are you? And thank you for joining.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Matt. And I'm doing good today. Happy
Awesome.
to be
Well, show's over. No, I'm just kidding. Listen, I know that I want to get right into it. I know that from speaking with you and from some information you shared with me that you have your own story. You have your own story when it comes to what it feels like to be in a situation, being the child of a divorce, the whole process. Tell us about that, and then I want to take you through that whole journey to how you're doing what you're doing today and how it all ties together.
Yeah, sure. So, for the first 13 years of my life, I was part of a nuclear family, and then around 13, 14 years old, my parents divorced. It certainly wasn't the ugliest of divorces, but they were not on good terms. They did do a good job shielding my sister and I from conflict, but was still exposed to some things. And still, my parents divorced. I lived with my father primarily, shared time with my mom. My sister lived with my mom primarily, shared time with my father. So I had that experience myself.
Until you were 13, that happened at 13?
Yeah, 13, 14-ish. I was an eighth grader going into high school, formative years, right? And
how old were your siblings?
My sister was a year older than me. So, she was 14, 15.
Okay.
We both had different experiences in that process. Like, she responded to it differently. I remember how I went through it, which was sort of a foreshadowing for my future, because I was very stoic through the experience, where my sister had a very emotional experience. So that just, I don't know, just foretold where I might end up, is guiding people through this in my future. But yes, I had that experience as a adolescent. And then as a young man, I was 28 when I met my ex-wife, and we married. And she was a divorcee herself, and she had a child who was 2. So I became a stepfather. I married into a situation where there was a parenting plan in my life now, where I was the stepfather to a child who we were sharing 50-50 with his father. So I had a co-parent in my life suddenly, and had to, on a personal basis, learn how that works, and come to experience what it's like to be married to somebody who has to share their child, and wade through the waters of co-parenting and all that. And then I got divorced. So, and I had a child of my own. So when my child was about 6 years old, my wife and I divorced, and now I have my own parenting plan. And
I gotta get a pen. Hang on, I can't even keep track of this. Don't go anywhere.
Yeah, no problem.
There it is. All right, I gotta like recap this because you just lost me. Right, hold on. Go back for a second.
Sure.
Because that way that all played out, I want to hear about. So you were 14, your sister was 15, and you said you were stoic.
Yeah.
Were you stoic because you don't seem like naturally that's the way you are? Was it because you decided that was like a shutting down, a way of coping with what was going on?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's something maybe I got to unpack in therapy.
Well, we're in therapy right now. There's nobody watching but me.
No, I know, right? Yeah, it's just me and you, just us gals chatting. No, I don't know what it was. I do handle stress well in life. I always have, and I don't know. I was not. I was still coming out of like the shy phase in my life as a young man, and I don't know. I was just pretty straight through that whole thing. Not really strong one way or the other. Just kind of watching everybody, and I had a belief. I think my parents did a good job making me understand that everything was going to be okay, right? Like they said all the right things. It's not your fault. Like you're loved by both your parents. They
Did you feel it?
Did I feel what exactly?
The words. Was it?
Yeah. Because like my parents, they weren't disparaging each other. Like I saw some things I probably didn't need to see, which I realized later. But like because I do this for a living, I know it could have been significantly worse. Right. So I know that it was really minor in the grand scheme. And so that's, I always just say for them, like, good on them that they did the right thing. You did what you're supposed to do. They didn't, allow us to be exposed. They didn't talk crap about each other. And, it allowed my sister and I to love them both how we're supposed to. And then they stayed really close to each other, within 5 minutes of each other, which is a gift parents can give their children through divorce, is to remain close to each other so that the kids can very easily go back and forth between households. And it's just, I never lost connection with either of my parents through the process.
That's a brilliant point. Yeah. That's a really brilliant point, because so many people, I mean, you're in a profession, and I'm living my life, and you just know so many people that go through it. And you hear about the ones that are the bad situations, and maybe we don't hear enough about the good situations, but that is just a brilliant common sense. Like if two people are thinking about what the best thing for their kids is, that would be one of those things, like stay close, like geographically, so that the children can have what they need. Do you find that, I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but do you find that oftentimes people are so caught up in their emotions that they're not focusing on what's right for their kids? It's all about them, and they're just pissed off at each other?
I mean, yeah, 100%. Like a lot of people are really trying to do the right thing, but there are definitely I don't know, a third of the cases maybe where people either they're just simply unable to put someone else first, like their kids, or they need help getting there because they are caught up in what's happening to them. It's an extremely traumatic experience all around. And so, yeah, they just need help. Like, big picture here, you have small children, and like your decisions really need to be focused on them. And really, a lot of people have really negative thoughts about family law and divorce and how the courts handle it. But the great weight of family law and all the professionals involved in the process are like, yeah, husband and yeah, wife, we know you got stuff you need to take care of, but we really care about the kids here. And like, we really, really want to make the best decisions for them. And so, yeah, like that, living close is like one of the biggest decisions that you can make at the time of separation and divorce.
I want to like frame something out for you. There's people that are going to watch this. It could be the day it gets put out. It could be 2 years from now, right? Because these videos are out there forever.
Yeah.
You have an experience it's valuable because, first of all, you're a happy, successful guy. And so there's a happy ending to your experience. But take me through more, like you just gave some valuable advice, right? That's one gold nugget that you just gave, that if people are not paying attention, listen to what Matt just said, because I don't know from it, but I do know that what he just said is common sense. And if you could put your emotions aside, which is really difficult, we acknowledge that, doing what's best for your kids is like critical. So you being in the situation where you did have, it sounds like you're saying your parents were like 5-10 minutes apart, so you were able to go back and forth. Do you recall, and if you don't, I wouldn't be surprised, it was a while ago, do you recall having friends who also were that had families with divorce, but that wasn't the case, and those kids had a more difficult time?
I mean, in my youth, no.
Yeah, when you were like 15, 16?
Not really. No, I see it all the time as a professional.
Now.
And actually, when my wife and I were having our child, we were in a transitionary phase where we were trying to find a place to live. And my stepson's father lived in Broward, and we were staying in Palm Beach County at the time. Where do we go? Do we go live in Jupiter? Do we go live in Broward or somewhere else in Palm Beach County? And I lobbied, my then wife, right? I'm like, we need to go live as close to this guy as possible, because we share 50-50 with him. Like,
it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, we need to be close. This needs to be workable. This needs to be logistically practical. Like, right. This is what my parents did for me. This is the advice I give all my clients. Like, this is what we need to do. So it came up more than once in my life for me. It's actually come up 3 times in my life for me. And I see it all the time in my profession. Yeah.
I'm curious, was she emotional about it and was kind of like, no, I don't want to do that? You were very level-headed and like logical. You're a guy.
Yeah.
I'm
a lawyer, so I live in my logic brain, just like
exactly. Did you have a hard time getting through to her on that because she was like emotional about it?
No, when it was us and we were a team and we were making that decision, I think she listened to me a lot and she saw the sense in it. When it was time for our divorce, that's a different story.
That changed everything.
Yeah, that's a different story. And then it became a point of contention. But yeah, she listened at the time.
Awesome.
Because it makes sense. It really just does.
I'm going to ask you a question, and if you don't want to answer it, I get it. Did your sister have an easy time? Did your sisters have a difficult time, more difficult than you? Did you guys have a very different experience? Being a year apart, but being a boy and a girl and different.
We had different experiences for a couple of reasons. One, this is getting really personal, but it's all good. But like one was there was infidelity involved in my parents' divorce, and my mom was with the person after the divorce, which is one of the most traumatic things. Like if you put scale of 1 to 5 of like the traumatic ways a marriage can end through infidelity, 5 being the most traumatic, it was like what my mom did was basically like live with the person post-divorce and then, have 50% of the time with your kids and having them in the household, and
it's
so
really difficult.
Yeah.
You can't pretend it's not. That's really difficult.
I mean,
anybody.
It can be. So my sister was living primarily with my mom. And so she was living in that environment more than I was. And I'm not trying to say it was like a toxic environment or anything like that, but the dynamic is different. And I think that it was, for me, I live mostly with my dad, and I'm tight with both my parents. So it was like, okay, it's me and my dad. I'm a high school age boy. I play football. I play basketball. My dad's an old coach. So like, it's easy. It's very easy.
That was really different.
My sister was going through, what they say about teenage girls, and they're daddy's girls until they become teenagers, and then they want to like chew off the dad's head, right? Well, It was like the perfect storm of like, my sister was reaching that point in life, parents going through divorce. Now she's not primarily with my dad. She's got this different life with my mom, all of it coming together. So her and my dad were real at the time. And now they're amazing. But like at the time they were struggling, and, it
was like the perfect storm.
Yeah, it was a hard time for them. I mean, they got through it, I think, pretty quickly. By the time my sister and I went away to college, like everybody was cool. But I think for a year or so, they struggled a little bit.
Okay, hold on to that, because that's going to help us when we get a little farther down the conversation, because there's so much so much advice you can give on that.
Yeah. But by the way, something important about that is my mom didn't use that as like a wedge to like to put between my sister and my father, you know? So like some parents, they act in bad faith and they latch on to crap like that. And oh, you're not getting along. Oh, you know, she shouldn't be with you, or you know, and they just try to exacerbate. And you know, my mom didn't do that, right? My parents weren't trying to do things like that.
You know,
But some people do.
it's really good to point that out. You know, it might also be worth pointing out that in any situation, you know, when you have a married couple, things happen for a variety of reasons that only the individual people know why they're doing what they're doing. And as individuals, we each, being on this planet as human beings, really just want to feel good and feel accepted and feel validated and feel happy. And nobody knows what people, two individuals, even you with your parents, nobody really knows what they, you know, what their experience is with each other and as individuals. And so it's important, I think, not to judge. I'm not saying to you, I'm saying to anybody, it's important not to judge, because nobody knows what another person's experience really, really is. Like what's going on inside your head and your heart and your soul and with the other person you're with. And so people make decisions that may seem bad on the outside, but to them, it might seem like it might be good. And it's hard, you know, we just judge. And anybody can say anything they want about what, as you put it, you know, the choices your mom made, but nobody knows. Maybe you know, and I'm not asking you, we're not going to go that far, but she did what she felt was best for her. And I guess we'll talk more. So so time went by, you guys,
Yeah.
you guys were okay. Time went on. You guess you guys would go to college. And so the healing happened, right? Over time.
Yeah. So that's another thing is I saw the evolution of my parents' relationship. Right. So, you know, at the time of divorce, not good. Right. Not crazy terrible, but not good, not friends, you know? And then years go by, you know, they took my sister and I, because my sister and I ended up living together in college for our first couple of years. They took us to college together, right? So they took us to college, they dropped us off together. That was a whole family thing. Okay, more years later, my dad and his lady spend Christmas with my mom and her new guy, right? And then she spends Thanksgiving at my dad's house. So they've spent holidays together like that. They came together. I remember when my sister and I had a party we shouldn't in high school, they came together and disciplined us together, right, as a unit. But yeah, they became friendly. And then just to like bring it full circle, my sister just got married a few weeks ago in Massachusetts. So now my parents are grandparents, right, to my daughter.
Wow.
So, you know, we traveled up with my dad and his wife. We stayed in a hotel with my mom and her husband. They were across the hall from each other. We went, you know, like we spent the whole weekend together, and it's not even a thing. Like it's just, it feels
time heals,
like
people mature, life goes on. You know?
Yeah. And, you know, like when I started having my stuff with my wife, and then, you know, you start digging into some stuff and you start bringing up old stuff and all this crap. And like, I remember my mom and my dad talked, and my mom, and they were just like, yeah, it's like water. And like, we're in like our second or third lives now, like that, you know, hey, thanks for the sentiment and all that. But like, we're cool. You know, we're friends now. We have grandchildren together. Like,
that's really a fantastic outcome. I mean, it's unique to them, but I'm sure it's more common than we probably know. I have a question for you. So were you and your sister, did it become like you two were almost like a team, like you found each other through your teenage years, like you went to college together? Was that like part of like a support system you kind of just organically developed? Like, yeah, your sister and brother, but you went through something together. It's a special bond. Maybe that's what I'm getting at. Was it a special bond?
I don't know. I mean, we've just always been cool. We're only 13 months apart. So like, we are contemporaries. We've shared friends our whole life. You know, we always hung out. Like, she would have little parties, I would hang out, you know, like we lived in one of these neighborhoods where we could all play together and stuff. So like, we've just always been cool. I don't know, like, we've always been cool. So it was never really it was never openly discussed kind of in the way you just put it. I mean, maybe we did find comfort in each other, having each other's presence, because it was cool to like, for all of high school, she went to a different high school than I did. So different high schools, really living in different homes, having those formative years apart. And then boom, we got back together and got to live together in college and be, young adults and not have the parents around and have that fun. That was cool for us, So
wow. Yeah. I'm hearing something like you've clearly developed an ability to adapt like to difficult situations. And I can't let go of the stoic comment you made. There's something to it because you've got to be able to withstand. You must have a lot of like persistence or determination or thick skin, whatever you want to call it, because things like this can go either way. You hear for every good story or good outcome, you hear tragic stories of like just people that are just destroyed, and that's not you guys. And I mean, would you agree that or is there something to that, like where you developed some sort of like, got to keep it together? I'm going to be in sports. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Maybe you didn't think about it, but you found things to really almost like divert from what was going on.
Yeah, I don't know. Thank you. I don't know exactly what it is.
I'll send you a bill for that.
I do handle, like I said, stress well. And sometimes the way I put it is I say, I'm just a G, man. Like, drop me in the middle, whatever. I'm going to be okay. One way I think I do that is I keep perspective. So I often think just about how much worse matters could be for myself. I think about how blessed I am. So whenever, I might be feeling down about something, I'm just like, well, okay, like, but I'm still living. I live very comfortably. Like COVID is very challenging. And I'm like, yeah, but like I can pay my bills. I can still work. Like so many people, I don't even know how they're making it. They're struggling so bad. So I keep perspective. B, I trace my own personal responsibility back to I always trace back to what decision that I made that put me in my present circumstances. There's always, I feel, a point in time in the past where you can identify where you did something that created what you're experiencing now. And if that's the case, then you can't really feel too sorry for yourself. And also it empowers you in the way that like, well, okay, I can make choices that can, alleviate this stress and these burdens that I've put on myself. So I like to always think about those things, and just, it's not, my dad's always said things like, hey, it's going to work out. It's going to work out. I feel blessed to have my parents close. So if things ever did get really bad for me, I have safety net in that regard, which is really fortunate. I don't know, man. I just feel fortunate and blessed, and like most of it, it's going to be fine. You're going to be okay. I have my health. Like if you have that, you really have everything. And so that's kind of how I think about stuff.
It's so like attitude is everything. It really is. And you got a mindset that's like really, it's like galvanized in a way in positivity, and I can feel it through the screen. I can feel it.
I definitely try to stay positive. Yeah.
And the times that I've heard you speak before, it comes through, you really can feel the vibe coming through. So that makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. So now time went on, right? And so here you take me through that again. You got married.
I got married to a divorcee.
Go slow. I'm a smart guy, right? Go slow.
I married a divorcee with a 2-year-old. So I became.
How old were you?
I was 28.
Okay. So you're out of college, you're working for a couple of years.
Yeah. That's it. I was working.
Were you a super lawyer at that point?
I wasn't a super lawyer yet, but I was practicing family law for about 2 years. Okay. And then I meet this divorcee. She's got a 2-year-old. I don't know. I felt ready to, what's that?
How'd you guys meet?
She was looking for a family law attorney, and I was like, yeah, I can't help you. And I gave her case to somebody else. And then we just stayed in touch, and that's how that happened. Okay. But eventually after the divorce, we got together, and I became a stepfather. I feel like I was like coming to a point in life where I felt like I was ready for a family, ready to be, a dad. And that was a great experience. I mean, I raised that kid until he was 10, until we split up. So, loved him, and had a great time doing that. And then again, like I said, like this became my own first personal experience having my own parenting plan and sharing 50-50. And I was, when my wife was pregnant with my child, I'm doing a lot of the co-parenting stuff and
But this is the second wife you're talking about.
Well, this is my first wife.
Yeah, but
my only wife.
Oh, wait, what did I miss? I thought you okay, go ahead. See, you gotta go slow for me.
I'm just saying is she had, because she had a kid and she was sharing him with her ex-husband, we were co-parenting. So
you also had a kid together though.
We did. We later had a kid together.
I got it. Okay.
Yeah. Then we had a kid together. And then when that child was about 6, we divorced. And our divorce wasn't great.
You guys were together for a while.
We were together for 8 years total. Yeah. About 4 years married only. And it's recent. My divorce is recent. And and I had, my divorce was a really terrible experience for me. If I have 20 cases, it was my worst case. And I was challenged a lot during it. I was like so grateful that I do what I do for a living, because it just armed me with the knowledge that like, okay, all this crazy crap is going to be over one day and it doesn't really mean anything and it's going to be fine. I just have to weather this storm.
So powerful.
And really, I got great advice from a client, and now it's part of my arsenal, which is, and I practice this myself, but he just put it into such simple words, which is be still, right? Like there was a freaking storm raging around me, and I am equipped with the tools to take a lot of action in a family law case. I know how to do it. I'm capable, and I can do a lot of things. But what I chose to do was be still, and it served me immensely. It kept the situation that could have easily gotten really out of control, and it kept it less. And now I really think about those 2 words a lot when advising people and also in my own situation.
That's brilliant advice. I mean, it applies to so much. And it's so, for you, it might've been, I mean, the word easy comes to mind, but nothing about that was easy. But because of your nature, because of your mentality, it sounds like you're saying you were able to be still, or at least find a way at times. Some people can't. Like they just get crazy.
It's very one of the biggest problems in family law is being reactionary. And somebody says something, somebody does something, and I gotta do this. I gotta take action. I gotta do something. I gotta do something. Most of the time, no, you don't. You don't. Let it happen around you. You'll see it's not that big a deal. You'll see you're gonna be okay. You'll see no one's gonna take anything from you. Your rights will be fine. And really doing something and reacting is only going to exacerbate the situation and not serve you, not benefit you. So no, sometimes the hardest thing to do is to do nothing. And that's something that I was confronted with in my own situation. And most of the time I didn't do anything. And then you have the benefit of being able to look back and being like, oh, that was the right choice, not doing something. You see, it was the right choice.
It's never the wrong choice, because you still have the option to always do something. But if you pause, and you just said something really interesting, because when you were revealing that what most people are driven by, their actions are driven by their emotions, and underneath the emotion, if it's fear driven, it's probably not going to be a great choice. If it's driven by maybe the thought of losing something, or losing out on something, or having possessions taken, or money, or your kids, or whatever, that could keep you in a constant reactive state of like fight, like just fight. And that fight is not necessarily clear-minded thinking. That's what I just heard you say.
Totally. Yeah. Great way to put it.
It's like chill out and let it happen. You can always make a decision tomorrow or next week, unless it's something, I guess there's urgent matters that happen, but barring those things, what a difference in anything you do in life. If you just pause, man, the way I say it is hit the brakes, slow down, and just see what happens.
Yeah.
Right.
Take a beat, think, strategize, like play it all out in your head. Look at
I feel like right now you might want to bust into a rap. No,
I've never written about family law before.
So this is really interesting to me.
Family law is a great practice because there's some interesting legal issues. It's not the most complex like legal stuff you can do, but there's some interesting legal issues. But it is like this microcosm of the human experience, like the emotion, the finances, the changes in life, and the family. It is just, man, a lot of times is all wrapped up in this one little ball of divorce. And
it happens fast.
Yeah, it happens
fast. It feels like it.
Well, in the like, okay, if you live 90 years, 2 years, 1 year, that's a blip on the
zoom
screen.
Out. Yeah, that zoom out changes the perspective.
Yeah, so you really just see people, man, going through it, and you see the real of people sometimes. Sometimes their trauma side, their dark side, right? Like their side when there's a saying that family law attorneys see good people at their worst. And there's a lot of truth in that. But sometimes too, people rise to the occasion and you see them at their best. And like I said, it's just a window into the human experience that not a lot of people get,
Something similar, but definitely not the same. I went through a business divorce, right? A business partner. So obviously no kids. It wasn't like a physical relationship, but tremendous amount of money at stake. Ownership of business. And it was really like it was 2 years. And I've told this to many people. I spent like $400,000 on it over like 2 years. And I was fighting for everything I had worked for, everything I built. I was fighting for it to retain what I believe was really something I built more so than the other guy. But the thing is, it changed me. I was different during those times. Like I was at war. Like I felt like I was at war and I was not going to lose.
Yeah.
And now it wasn't kids, it wasn't a marriage, but it was to some degree, I feel like I remember that feeling. Like I can't put myself in the feeling right now, but I remember I did not like that guy, like who I was at that time.
Yeah.
Not a good version of me.
No, I despite the fact that it didn't involve children and whatever, it's still obviously significant. And like that is true. Like what you just said is very, very true. It changes you. And
by the way, it almost impacted my marriage. I mean, it pushed things to the limit because I was 2 years. Mm-hmm. And it might be similar in this way. It consumed my thinking. Like I was trying to protect. I didn't want to lose something.
Yeah, like you're having like your date night with your wife, and that's all you can think about and talk about. Or you're checking your emails in bed when you're supposed to be with your wife. And that's one of the reasons why I and other people in the profession, I'm not totally unique in this regard, is that people we are encouraging, don't litigate. Like end this litigation, figure out what everybody's position is, and then end this as soon as possible, because it just hangs over your life like a dark cloud. You can't move forward, you can't grow,
locked up.
You are just stuck and not in a pleasant circumstance. And it needs to end. And so that's why the profession strongly encourages resolution.
That's another great point. And my thing we were in court. I mean, it was a lot of court time. I was never in court, but my lawyers, I have 4 lawyers. It was a lot of court time. And in the end, 2 years later, we ended up settling for the same exact thing that I had offered him 2 years earlier before we spent any money.
Yeah, really frustrating.
All the pain after all of it. And it might be similar with what you're talking about. I mean, if you could just sit down and just try as hard as it is to maybe put some of the anger and bitterness and all that stuff aside and just say, what is the best possible outcome? Let's just try and achieve it together. That's what you're saying. It's like, well, why would you want to take the long path and go to litigation or damage, yourself, your kids, like when you can avoid it? I mean, I guess most people don't do that, but
good lawyers in this profession, and there are many, they know that. And they try to get to a point as soon as possible where you're ready to make those decisions so that you don't go through that. Like it doesn't make any sense. There's no reason for it. Some lawyers say the only reason why you go to trial in a family law case is you have a novel issue of law, something that is just so unique, it's really hard to resolve, or someone is crazy. Like they cannot think soundly and reasonably. Because if you can think soundly and reasonably, there is a business decision to be made, and you just got to make it. And if you can't, now kids complicate things, and like, for example, when people move 100 miles away, well, how do we resolve that? There's no, oh, I'll move 50 miles and now we're in between and whatever. There's no resolving distance in time. So that's why it's such a significant issue. But otherwise, it's so, most of it, I mean, 80% of family law cases settle in their first mediation. The other 19,
really?
Yes. Less than 1% go to trial. So like, very, very few, very rarely are you going to trial. There's might be small hearings along the way, but like most everything is settling, and it's just a matter of when and how much money and aggravation you're gonna, experience and lose along the way. So the best practitioners, are just headed that way from the jump. You're just, get me the information so the positions are crystallized, and then we can know what the result is and settle.
I have one more question about you, but we're going to bridge it into what you're doing now, which we're really talking about already. Did you come across, or you had all your own experiences, and there's things you carried with you, right? I don't know how much work you've done in yourself, and I'm not even asking, but has this crept up on you in your own experience, like with your, I guess, your ex-wife and the people you're helping? Like, do you find that you're like either having a memory of something that's causing you to have like a feeling of how things were when you were a kid, and in a way it's helping you move people in the right direction because you know how it felt? I'm trying to bring this whole thing together.
Yeah, I mean, what I realized, because when you talk to people about your profession, people ask you like why you do what you do, right? Like why family law? How'd you get into family law, or things like that? I don't think that. I think, well, we say family law finds you, and I do think that phrase particularly applies to me because I was not seeking out family law in law school. It was, the economy was bad, and it just kind of happened to be what I stumbled into. But what I've come to realize over time is that my life experiences really prepared me for this particular niche. They've made me sensitive to people's experiences, empathetic to what people are going through, and have helped me be like a sensitive, guide through this situation, and just keep my cool. And I'm able to relate with people and tell people like, look, I've seen this and I've seen that. And I know that it's bad now, but I also know that it's not always going to be like that. It doesn't have to be. Things can get better. I've seen it in my own life. So I feel like it has, my life experiences have really helped me shepherd people through what is like one of the most traumatic life experiences, people can have.
I say this in the most positive way, but people want to come to somebody who's an expert. You've lived it from different perspectives. You've experienced it from different perspectives, and obviously, the laws around it. So what better person to have as a guide, a trusted advisor? I mean, you're an expert in it. Some people go to school and they come out and they're practicing it, but you use the key word is you have empathy, you have understanding, and you know what the feeling is to. So when you tell somebody something, sure, there's legal advice being in there, but I'm sure there's other conversations that you have depending on the client where it's also like, listen, by the way, you can do this, this, and this, but like, here's what I would do. There's always that personal side to it, and people have faith in you and they can feel you, and so they tend to just believe you because you know what it feels like. And then they don't know your background, but that comes out of you, right? Your energy is believable because without telling the story, you can sense it. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, thank you. And I mean, I do tell a lot of clients about my life. I do a lot of counseling, just talking with people, just like coaching them, through this crap. And so, yeah, my own life, I, when I was married to a divorcee, I talked a lot about that. And then after going through my own experience, I talk about that, and I talk about my parents. And so I do think it helps a lot. And I think people appreciate it and makes them think about things that they didn't really think about, because they're just stuck in it and they're just worried. And so it serves me, it serves my clients. And I don't know, I feel like I am where I'm supposed to be.
There's no question. And it seems like it. Let's put something out there that's really valuable to people, right?
All right.
4 ways to reduce the impact on the children in a divorce. What comes to mind? What are the 4 things that we can tell people? If they watch nothing else in this video, listen to this.
Yeah. Well, anybody who knows what they're doing in family law will tell you that what the science tells us. And what that is that if conflict is low, the children will be okay. Kids are okay going through a divorce if they're not exposed to conflict. If you expose them to your BS and your conflict, and what judges will say is love your child more than you hate your ex, right? So if you can't do that, then your divorce might have a negative impact on your child. They may struggle. They may go through some stuff. They may anyway, but you're giving them the best shot possible by keeping conflict low, keeping your stuff away from them. That's primary. Another thing is you got to have an understanding of the law. You need to get good advice in that regard. The law in Florida about kids is that, we want kids to have frequent and continuous contact with both parents. How's that widely interpreted and applied?
It's a law.
What's that?
That's a law that says that?
Frequent and continuous contact.
How do you define that?
Well, people think it means, or people think the law says, oh, parents are going to have 50-50 time sharing. It doesn't quite say that. But in practice, in application, most cases are going to end up, if you go in front of a judge, that judge is going to order a 50-50 time sharing plan, unless you give them some really, really good reasons not to. Okay. Right. One of the couple of those would be like logistical and practicalities, geography, as we've discussed. So like just understanding that like this petty crap, he used to smoke joints, or, I don't know, like just dumb stuff. Like if you're not doing something that's really negatively impacting the child, it's really not that serious. And the kid's going to end up being with both parents equally or really close to it. And so if you have that understanding, then that should color your conduct. You should then be doing less stuff to try to, I don't know, like stick it to the other parent or get them in trouble or something like that, because you just know it's going to turn out a particular way. So just get there, So that's another thing, is having a good understanding of the law. Another thing is just trying to maintain the financial status quo. Some people, they start going through a divorce, they start operating from the fear-based mindset. Right. Oh, I'm gonna have to pay too much, or I'm gonna be without, or I'm not gonna be able to make it, or blah blah blah, or I'm not gonna go earn because I want to get as much from this other person. Whatever it is, they operate in that way, and then you're disrupting the financial status quo, and now the kid is experiencing that, right? They don't get to do the extracurriculars, or they don't have this, or they don't have that, or things feel different. You want to try to keep things as consistent and routine as possible for the kids. That's when they do best, right? When there's consistency,
right?
And then finally, the last thing I would mention is like just stay close. Like there's no replacing the family unit. Once you break up the nuclear family unit, things get a little more challenging. It just is what it is, right? This isn't perfect. Co-parenting isn't perfect, but you try to come up with a better way to share a child when their parents split, right? I don't know of one. We're going to have to co-parent. We're going to have to share. So stay close, try to make it as easy as possible, because the kid is going to be going back and forth, and we want them to have as little struggle in that as possible. So those are some things I would mention.
Those things are brilliant. And even just if you take those forward, and if you do them, you're really going to do a solid justice for the children. The alternative isn't really that good, but those 4 things cover almost everything.
Yeah. And like, speaking from being a parent who went through divorce, you are disappointed in yourself in that, like, okay, you had a kid, you brought a kid into this world, and you're like, man, I couldn't keep my family together for this kid, right? I couldn't give them the nuclear family experience all the way through childhood. And it sucks. It's not a nice feeling, but what's the next best thing you can do, right? Keep it as close to that as possible. Keep it as stable as possible. be as friendly and cordial and civil as possible with the other parent, like just getting as close to what is ideal as possible. So, yeah.
Want to rap for us?
Yeah, I got you. Let's do it.
You got? Let me see what you got.
All right. So I like to write about politics, and also I like to write about love too, but I'm gonna give you something political. All right. So here goes. This is one of my favorites. This is called, it's untitled. I'm gonna call it Care to Kill or Thoughts and Prayers, something like that. Here we go. They just care to kill more than they care to care. There's always money in the bank for more warfare, but when the people need help, they get thoughts and prayers. To lift the nation up, there's not a dollar to spare. They like, we on a tight budget, see, and y'all just want too many damn things for free. I'm sorry, but we ain't got the tax money. So the welfare of the people ain't their priority, but they got credit cards with no limits on spending. If they use them to buy bombs and planes from Boeing, and the war spending rising, no slowing the growing, while the needs of the needy they continue ignoring, and we're storing more nuclear weapons than seconds we spend lifting a finger to help veterans, and we're sending sons and daughters with lethal weapons to blast foreign cities to rubble and send their children to the heavens. Instead, we should be sending our children to college, filling their heads with culture and knowledge, or teach them a trade so that they can get paid. But we empty our wallets for bombs, bullets, and rockets. Instead, we should be taking care of ourselves. What's the world's wealth without physical and spiritual health? We going bankrupt when we need a little medical help. It's sick. We killing people with their hospital bills because it's pay to play. Pay to play, we paying in, but they won't let us play. Ain't gotta say, money is slim, but they got tanks and planes. Yeah, we can change with the will. There's a way. But right now they just care to kill more than they care to care. There's always money in the bank for more warfare, but when the people need help, they get thoughts and prayers to lift the nation up. There's not a dollar to spare.
I got the whole song. Ooh, that was awesome. All right, hold on. That was all memorized. You didn't just read that? That's killer.
No,
That's
yeah, I memorized all my stuff.
Rapping, poet, family law, super lawyer.
Super lawyer. Yeah.
Awesome. That's so cool. That's so cool. I love it.
Thank you. That was fun.
I can't think of a better way to end it. We're going to end the show right there. Listen, we signed on today to do something, and I said it at the beginning. We're here to inform, to educate, to inspire people. Personally, I find your story to be super inspirational, and anybody that listens to this, I mean, I don't know how you can find anything other than that. And the stories you told and the information that you shared today, really valuable. That's why we do this. So I always end the show by saying this: be humble and hustle. Do the work.
Yeah.
It applies to everything we do. It applies to everything in life. Before we sign off, is there anything you want to tell anybody where they can find you, how they can reach you?
Oh, sure. My website is soflowfamilylaw.com, so you can find me there. You could text me. So if you see my business line anywhere, you can text that number. I'm very generous with my time. So, I know people are usually going through crisis when they're reaching out to me. So I'm sensitive to that, and reach out if you need help.
Awesome. We're going to put all that information below. And thanks again, man. Thanks for coming today.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It was fun.
That was the highlight of my week, man. That song. I love it.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. Have an awesome night. Thank you.
All right, sir.